It's time to present Scott DuPont to bring you another episode of Finance Your Movie with tips and strategies to help you get your money to tell your story. It's time!
Wow, we got a jam-packed show. I am here with Lanett Tachel and Corey Grant with New Breed Entertainment. And wow, have we got some stories to share, because I know just a little bit. Welcome, guys.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, thanks for having us.
When I met you a few weeks ago, I just saw in a very short period of time, I'm guessing in less than 15 years, you guys hustled, worked your butts off, and just cranking out amazing films, had some great ROI successes. We're going to get into all that. Lanett, I want to start with you. You went to Howard University, correct?
Yes. HU.
You know,
And then I guess you came out to Hollywood and you started with your first short film, Sister, Sister, Sister.
Yes. There was
And then what was the journey from there to your first feature, Illicit? And was that the point where you intersected with Corey?
okay. That's a great question. So a lot of that stuff happened a little bit simultaneously for me. When I first came out to Hollywood, I was fresh out of school, graduated with my BFA, theater major, getting out here to get into acting. And just like a lot of people, you get here, you're like, I've got the body of work. I've done these plays, I've done all these things, I'm studied, and I should just be able to come out and get an agent right away. And, that was the dream, obviously. And then you realize there's a lot more steps in between, what you believe you're ready for and what you have to do to get there. And so worked my butt off in different jobs, figuring out how to make the schedule work with rent and acting and just figuring things out like you do when you get out of school. And I came upon one job I was working as a bartender in Daily Grill. And I met Bill Maxwell, who was the composer for Ed Weinberger of the Cosbys, Taxi, a host of things. And he'd become one of my regulars and overheard a lot we shared. He knew I was an actor. And he also knew that I had a knack for management and things like that. And so he brought me onto a show called Bells, where it was we shot about maybe 6 episodes or so. It was a pilot. It had Keith David, Ella Joyce, a bunch of other people. But there on that show,
And you were acting?
I came on the show originally as like a supervisor, as somebody that comes from the restaurant world. So I can, it was a restaurant show and they needed some authenticity. And then as soon as they wiggled me in there, they said, wait a minute, she's an actor. Let's get her to read. Worked my way onto the show. And then as I became a part of that show, that was my first real role in Hollywood. The person who casted the show, Phaedra Harris, is a casting director. Obviously, she knew everybody on that set but me. And so we met on that set and she said, kid, you got something. I want to take you under my wing. I have a class. Could you help me, with my class? Could you be a reader? And that was great for me, reading. And so when I met Phaedra Harris on that show, she brought me and she was casting a lot of movies at the time. So I'm meeting everybody that I can meet, reading them for roles that I'm not going out for, thereby introducing me to directors, producers, writers, putting me in the room. And during that time, I started writing. I started creating, shorts and things, but I was still a novice when it came to writing. I was strong with, my confidence with acting, but learning how to write, learning in these rooms what scripts worked. In one of these particular rooms, Phaedra Harris brought in a director who was casting for a film at the time, and his name was Corey Grant.
Here we are, representing Howard University as well.
Another Howard graduate as well, yes.
So I'm guessing that was Illicit, correct?
That was actually a film before we shot Illicit, 2 films before Illicit.
So just to kind of pick up where she was at, she came in and was a reader for my sessions. I didn't know her.
Mm-hmm.
But what was crazy was she was reading for multiple roles with different name actors coming in, but I started paying more attention to her as the reader than the people that were actually auditioning, because she was character to character is just so good. And I caught myself had to stop in the session, start paying more attention to people who were actually auditioning. So that started a good friendship. I found out she was learning how to write. I had a film that was coming up called Sister Code, and I was able to bring her onto that project in a role, and that's what started our collaboration.
Yep,
Okay.
wrote a couple different things, just auditioning some different material for that script. And then at that point, that's when we decided we have a really good sensibility when it comes to writing together, and a lot of similarities when it comes to creating characters and voices and things like that. And so, yeah, so that got us to our first part of the collaborating, and then Illicit is something that followed shortly after that. But up until that point, there was a short film that I did produce called Sister, Sister, Sister. And that was my first shot at being able to produce something from beginning to end on any level, making sure, all the pieces are coming together, understanding that if you don't have a big budget, you have to use your resources, your relationships, everything you can to get this thing to the finish line. And it gave me the confidence to at least believe, you know what, I can take this to another level. And since Corey had already had a feature or 3 features, I think, under his belt at that time, it was a quick transition from not just me acting in my own things and writing, but us collaborating together, building worlds together, and being able to bring in a lot of the people who were not being represented, in the projects. Great actors, name actors, unknown actors. Well, they're known now, but.
So Lanett, thank you for that. You kind of set me up perfectly for what I wanted to ask Corey next. So you're at Howard University, Corey, and you did 2 films while you were in college?
Well, actually, I did a bunch of short films while I was in film school. I went to grad film school there, MFA, and I did a bunch of shorts. Every time we were able to get equipment on the weekend, me and my partner, who still works with us today, Brian Prattman, in film school, we would get the equipment every weekend and go out and shoot something. So we did about 3 shorts. And then during that time, I was like, hey, we got to do a feature. I want to do a feature. I didn't know any better. We do shorts, let's do a feature. So we use school equipment, and I don't recommend this. I use scholarship and Pell Grant money to fund my first feature film.
Do what you got to do.
Which I did for $8,000, $9,000 at the time.
Say that again.
I used my Pell Grant money, my refund money, and some scholarship money that I had from being in school, and I used that to finance my first feature film. So it was $8,000 and a bunch of school equipment and a bunch of us students and some friends, and that's how I made my first feature film while I was still at Howard.
Wow, you put skin in the game. I really appreciate, that you took a chance. You invested in yourself.
Yeah. So the film, you can't pay me to watch it today. But actually, I actually put it in some theaters. I 4-walled it. I didn't know any better, and it did really well. I think I made about $100,000 just taking it around, about 100,000. And then
wow, say that again, please. $8,000 cost, over $100,000 output.
Yep, just from taking it around at different theaters. I was getting commercials on local TV to run a trailer for it, and I would take it to a different city and play it in the theater. Not knowing that this is a crazy way to do stuff. I didn't know, naivety actually could be your biggest asset, and it made money. And then I said, you know what, I'm about to graduate. I'm going off to Hollywood. I was able to get a distribution deal with I'm not going to say the company, but a distributor that has really bad reputation, but I was very shrewd in my negotiation, and they gave me like $50,000 for the movie to put it out. And I thought, okay, I made it, I got it out. And this is during when DVDs were still good. Yeah. And it was in stores and in Walmart, all the different places. And I said, I made it, and I packed my car and moved out to Hollywood. It's happening. It didn't happen.
Well, it happened.
So does that lead us to Dysfunctional Friends, the one you wrote and direct?
Not yet. So when I got to Hollywood out of film school, I went to Howard, so Cook Film School, but they didn't prepare us for the business of Hollywood. Right. And that's what a lot of things they don't teach you is the business aspect. So I had to learn how to make a proper film, understand distribution, understand the business, understand how to work with actors more. So I said, okay, I'm gonna do a slightly bigger film, not much bigger, but slightly bigger. And I did another feature called Studio. And this one we had a little bit bigger budget, and I was able to get it picked up by Warner Brothers Home Video under a sub-distributor. And at that particular time, that gave me the opportunity to work with a little bigger crew, not that good a crew, but a progression from film school. And then it taught me at that particular point, okay, now you've done that. Now you need to do a bigger movie with names. And that's what got us to Dysfunctional Friends. That was the one that kind of set me up.
And that went theatrical, correct?
That went theatrical. It had a who's who of everybody in the movie. You guys can look up and see all the people, but I like name dropping. We had a lot of people in it, but I was able to do it for a micro budget that at the time we would never reveal. But a producer that I was working with, he couldn't believe when I told him I can do this particular feature at this particular budget because
are you saying like under 250?
Oh yeah, during this time, I think we might have spent maybe 160, 180, and we had name talent across the board. Because at that time, you can get a lot of people with favorite nations, people responding to the script. A lot of times, a lot of name actors will if they can trust you and they respond to material, they'll cut their rates and you can shoot them in and out and they'll come in. And I shot this film in 10 days.
Wow, smart.
At that time. At that time, people weren't doing that, especially with name cast. And I was one of the first to be able to do that. And the film, now it's a cult classic.
It's got a crazy following.
A lot of money for a lot of people. I'll leave it at that. A lot.
Awesome. And how did you get that 160, give or take? How did that money come about?
That came from a producer that found me on Facebook who was trying to start his producing for the first time. He had some connections to some private money. And when I told him, he looked me up, saw what I was doing, and then he read the script out. He loved it. And he said, realistically, how much you think you can do this for? And mind you, I should have said a lot more. I'm fresh out of film school.
Knowing what you have already been able to pull off.
Right? I was like, I can do it, like 150, 160, He said, you can? I was like, yeah. And he grabbed the money. I signed the bad contract.
But you got the movie made.
But see, that's the thing though. I knew it was a bad contract when I did it, but I also knew that what it would do for me in terms of the name talent that was on it, and it would go bigger. And the other thing was that particular film, if I myself can raise the money, get the talent, I wouldn't need to deal with this particular producer anymore.
Right.
So I knew what I was gambling. I bet on myself. I use it as a calling card.
So I want to connect the dots there real quick because there's an important lesson. So you really didn't know this producer, but you just kind of connected on Facebook?
Yeah, he found me. Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing you were promoting some of your film stuff on Facebook or talking about what you were doing?
Oh, but yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's really, really important. I mean, I look at YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all as like little billboards to promote your movie, to promote your brand. So anyway, interesting how that happened.
Yeah, this is before the days with
social media was crazy.
This is before the Instagram, the TikTok, all that stuff. This is like the infancy of Facebook. It was really kind of getting really popular. But Lanett has this saying that a lot of times we look ahead to people to give us the opportunities and look big. But he said a lot of times the people next to you are the people that are going to push you up together. Yeah. So, and
the other thing we like to focus on is, he said it earlier, like not being prepared for the business. So now we lead with it's business show. And that's something that I learned in Howard. We didn't understand to the depths of it, but I had one teacher, God rest her soul, Henrietta Edmonds, and she had a class called Business Show. And it it was really made for more people that were going to maybe go to New York and do theater. And it was just kind of helping you get set up for what are the next steps? How do you get certain things aligned? But what I took from that class was the business is 90% of the endeavor. The show is the part that you want, the artist wants, you want to hold on to, you want to get your creativity and your message out. But if you don't handle the business, people won't reinvest in you. it'll be hard for you to reinvest in yourself if you don't have a strategy of, once I shoot this project at this bottom line number, where can I go to at least recoup this so that I instill confidence in whoever I found as an investor, or even for me. So it's like you want to balance the passion of your project with the practicality as you level up. And that's what we've been at New Breed. That's like our focus is, how do we create budgets that we can work with? And we've done this for studio. We've done this independently. We prefer independently. And now it seems that the market is shifting back to prefer that as well. We're finally being highlighted right now, independent filmmakers, but we've done it on both levels and saw, if we can control the spend and put everything on the screen, put all of it on the screen, people have no idea what you have spent. And if they respond to the material, I mean, you can go through the roof with one of your projects.
So speaking of one of the projects, I'm going to come back to both of you so we can get to Illicit, some of the other movies, and of course, Angie's Cure, which is out now. But I want to talk about the big Bigfoot, the Lost Coast tapes.
Oh, wait, do you have it? Give me a second.
The Bigfoot?
You talk about it.
No, you can't get that.
Yeah,
So how did that come together? Apparently that was pretty low budget. You were able to raise the money, and then it made a big amount of money.
So Bigfoot, the Lost Coast tapes. So what happened was, when we did Dysfunctional Friends, a friend of one of my colleagues at the time, he had another friend who did a cover art. And he saw what we were doing, what I did. This is before Dysfunctional Friends. He saw what we did with this movie I did called Studio. And he took pictures off my Facebook and designed this nice one sheet just with pictures. I never even talked to him, never met him. Come to find out that he was actually a writer out here in LA, and formed a good friendship. His name is Brian Kelsey. And Kelsey is from Northern California, up where the Bigfoots are and everything. So after we finished Dysfunctional Friends, we were able to kind of raise some money to get another feature going. And I said, hey, Kelsey, I want to work with you. I have some things that I'm writing, but do you have any ideas of any type of movies that you would like to do that you have? And he gave me 3 concepts. One was a ghost movie, something else that I didn't really care for. The other one was good. And then he had a movie idea about Bigfoot. I said, that's the one.
That's the one.
And when I was a little kid, I would watch those old reruns of the Leonard Nimoy show. What's the name of it? It's
In Search of Bigfoot or whatever.
Yeah, and it scared me as a little kid. I remember this. It was scary.
You want to do what scares you.
And I've always been fascinated with Bigfoot. And so he got came up with this great script. And so when I was, kind of discussing, I said, you know what? At the time, found footage films were very popular.
Especially after Blair Witch, Open Water, Paranormal.
I didn't like found footage. So I was like, I want to do a found footage film, but I'm actually going to block it and shoot it in a way like you're thinking it's traditional. How we strategically do the wonders with the camera. So I'm getting all the coverage that I want, but that people still think it's found footage.
It feels like it.
And then slowly it starts looking like a regular traditional movie, which is what we did. So we packed up a bunch of people, maybe like 30 of us, and we traveled up to Northern California, Humboldt County, deep in the forest to shoot this Bigfoot movie. And it was the most craziest, scariest, fun experience of my life. Never forget it. And we get up.
Scary how much money you made.
Yeah. Well,
So let's start with the budget. What was the budget and how did you raise that? And then what was the ROI?
That budget was about maybe just over 300, 340. And most of the time you never reveal your budgets, but it's so far along where you tell them. But it was about 340, 350. We're supposed to be more than that. Problem was we had a finder that would go out and find the money. Probably wasn't the most scrupulous person. He was kind of, and we met him through somebody else that was in that same murky waters. But we get up there and we made a big mistake. We started shooting without all the money in the bank. Big mistake you never do. Rookie.
Yeah.
Don't know any better. We're excited to get a movie made. Travel up to Northern California. Halfway through the shoot, these people haven't released all the money. They stopped sending money up. So now I'm shooting. My producer had us come off. I'm just directing. And my second producer, he's not telling me what's going on about the money to keep me focused. We get to the last day of shooting in Northern California, and we were getting ready, we're wrapping up, and we have to get all of our crew back to Los Angeles, down in Southern California. We were all from, so we went up north all together. And he tells me that they haven't sent the rest of the money. What he didn't tell me is that he called his parents and his family members to get enough money to get all the crew back to LA.
Wow.
And that's when I found out that they didn't put all the money into the account.
Wow.
So what happened was we had one more day to shoot in LA to do pickups. And that's when I found out towards the end of that shooting day and realized I couldn't pay the rest of my crew. And it was the most uncomfortable feeling ever, because I found out at the last minute. And so we came up with this idea. That's the most uncomfortable feeling you ever want to be, is owing people money. That's just not what it's about. And so SAG got wind of us, because what we thought was, hey, we got the movie in the can. If we can edit this thing up, we can get it sold and we can pay everybody off, which is what we started to do. So we made this nice trailer, and a friend of mine was at this gym here, real fancy gym, and a young guy that worked at I Am Global, which is like one of the big agencies for selling films. He saw a trailer that he had on the phone, which is our Bigfoot movie. He saw that trailer and lost his mind when they told him that this is a movie that he had and that they're still finishing it. He left his job at I Am Global. Big job. Left his job, got our movie, started a whole new company. Now, mind you, he's in a little small apartment in West Hollywood, started a whole company around our film.
Wow.
And we said, okay, we're going to finish it. So what I did was, we had to do a few more scenes that day we didn't finish. We shot at the Batman cave in Griffith Park.
Yeah.
And what we did was, we got the actors together to come in and do it. They didn't mind that they didn't get paid. They wanted to finish the movie. SAG got heard about that we were trying to do pickups. And they told them if they went and shot with us, that they were going to shut it down. So what we did was, I hired a bunch of background actors, put them in their clothes, and then recorded my actors in the studio, recorded them live. So they had to come to set, use the recording to shoot on location with background actors dressed to get it in the can.
This is the ingenuity you have to have.
Wow.
So to move ahead quickly, just to make a long story short, we shot the movie. The guy wanted to get it cut up. It was great. He went from his small apartment in Hollywood to an office up in Universal Towers off of our movie, and it went worldwide. And it made a crazy amount of money.
Like 14 million?
About that estimated right now.
Yeah.
But this is the trick. And this is the first time people keep saying, why have we done a sequel? It has a big following.
Yeah.
Right now we're in the middle of a lawsuit because the original distributor that had the movie shut his company down or went under, sold the rights to another company. And they did not recognize or pretend like they didn't understand my contract. So they've been playing dumb.
And they didn't have the rights to sell.
And they don't have the
license. Yeah.
So our accountant got the estimates on what the movie
and was able to do digging
worldwide. So I say that to say, a lot of times distributors will take advantage of independent filmmakers if they think you can't afford an attorney or somebody to audit. And they do this all the time, figuring that you're not going to do anything. But we are. And we're happy that we're in the middle of getting a situation together so we can do the sequel.
And that goes back to what we were saying about business show. And one of the important things, making sure that you have audit clauses in your contract and that you're enforcing those things and you're not waiting on people to be the good guys. You have to be really proactive about finding your money and making sure you're made whole. But I did want to show you something because the Bigfoot went crazy. Everybody that was on that location does believe in the existence of Bigfoot. And there are two things that we have to show. This is the first one, Corey.
This is an authentic Bigfoot print.
Wow, a cast.
So our writer who grew up there, and this was taken from his backyard, and it's fully cast. And it's people, they laugh about Bigfoot, think it's not real. When you go up there in Northern California and you see how big and vast that forest is, and how secluded it is, and then you talk to the locals, it's not a big deal to them. Oh yeah, they're up here, we see them.
There's sightings all the time.
Yeah, it's no big deal, but it's definitely a real thing. And we're looking forward to doing a sequel as soon as this legal situation is resolved. And this is actually one of the props from the movie that on our set piece that I keep.
Oh wow!
With
Very cool.
But I hate to pub that movie is doing so well.
You
But
know, it's
now,
doing great.
but now legally, you know, we're about to get our just due. But it is available out there. This our biggest movie's done worldwide.
We'll release the teaser trailer for part 2 only once everything is resolved for part 1, because we want to make sure we're driving that attention when we're ready for it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're almost there. So I wish you luck on that.
Right.
One quick thing I wanted to just kind of a sidebar. You talked about finders. So these were other people who went out and helped you raise the money. Any quick advice on choosing a fundraiser or a finder?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of choosing one, I mean, as much as I hate to say it, the independent film business, there's a lot of murky waters that you can get into with different people. Anytime you have a middleman, there's a lot of stuff that goes on. The one thing I can say is that if you can find somebody that has above board investors, and you can work out a tangible deal that makes sense, and all the money is accounted for and goes into the bank, and you're not just signing anything, it's a good thing to do in terms of getting a finder. But a lot of times you can actually go out and pretty much, if you had a little bit of a track record, let me rewind. Let me say this. This is what I would say to any of the newer filmmakers coming up. What we didn't say is that Lanett and I put our own money into our movies. You follow?
So important. It's so important.
And during those early times, you know, we went out and got a couple people to do some smaller budget. But once we saw the returns and the minimum guarantees we would get from certain networks and other situations, amount of money we would get up front, we became smart where, okay, if we know we can get this amount up front when we sell it, we're going to budget below that. So we know that we're going to be in the black when we deliver. And then after that, if it does even more, we're great.
And then to backtrack, just for your listening audience, like with the minimum guarantees, a lot of times if you do start establishing a track record, and maybe the first time you get to one of the networks where your film releases, you've got to go through a couple people, sometimes, you know, a couple middlemen. But once your film starts to do well and you develop your own personal relationships at these same networks, you can have the conversations of bare minimum.
Direct.
What can I expect to receive for this project? If I turn it in, it's got this person, this is the premise. What are we looking at? And so for minimum guarantees.
So this is the game that they will play with you. And I learned this coming up. A lot of times strippers, they'll see your movie. Yeah, I like your movie. They'll like it. Okay. And they see it and they say, So then they get in their head, where can I sell this? Before even talking to you, they go call Peter, John, Paul, all these different networks, and see how much money they can get for it. And say after they talk to everybody they talk to, they figure, well, I can get about $1 million in guarantees off my company with these sub companies, about $1 million. They'll come back to you and they'll offer you an all rights deal, and then maybe they give you a minimum guarantee of $200,000.
Yep. Win-win.
That's how it works.
Yes.
To jump ahead today, now they're not even trying to give up minimum guarantees.
It's changing.
Yeah, it's changed again. But to keep piggybacking on what you say, even with the minimum guarantee, let's say it wasn't 200. Let's say it was for people who are first-time filmmakers doing this. Let's say you learned you were going to get 350,000. If you're a first-time filmmaker and you know you've made your movie for under $100,000, then you're very excited, and rightfully so, that you're going to make, no matter what, at least 350. What you don't know necessarily in the beginning is there's different terms. You can work different things into your contract to where if performance does X, you're able to renegotiate. You can audit to say, hey, before we relicense this again, because maybe that 350 was for 6 years or whatever the term, then let me see these numbers before we go back at this again. So for a first-time filmmaker, it's still a win to know that you've been profitable and you've made money, but the knowledge is what you really want. You want to learn, got it, I'm glad that this is profitable, but how much profit have I made for everybody else? So that was the lesson that we've learned. And now that the mode is changing and the minimum guarantees aren't the same as they used to be, and the world is kind of moving to the AVOD platforms, then I guess we can get into that later, but it shifts. It really shifts how you're making your film and what the expectation is. when you release, if you're going to go through the studio system, if you got that relationship, or if you're going to pump this thing out, put advertising behind it and go independently, and then sometimes do even better, when you're going through these new
I
platforms.
have a good entertainment attorney, right?
Yes.
Great
Oh my
entertainment
gosh,
attorney.
yes.
Yeah. So I want to jump ahead. You had great success. You did Illicit, then Twisted Date, and then we're here on Angie's Cure.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So obviously you probably can't release the exact budget because it's just newly released. But what would you say the budget range on that was? Was it under 500, under $1 million?
Over 500, just under
mil.
in that sweet spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So a decent budget. And how did that come together? Did you guys reinvested some and then got some equity investors?
We put up half the budget and we got another investor that came in with the other half.
Yep.
Wow. I have a lot of respect for you guys, honestly. And that's why I think you're so successful, because you always put skin in the game and you stand behind your work.
Yeah.
You know what?
That
That used to be my motto: stand behind your work, not in front of it. But now, in the social media age, you got to get in front of your work and rah, look at me.
In front, behind.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things. But what's happening with the industry now, these mid-level distributors, they are most of them are not scrupulous. They're very corrupt, and now they don't want to give you MGs. They try not to give you MG. But one of the things you have to realize is that they're going to make their money off of you. Their job is to make all the money and to get you as little as possible. But when you become smart, you can negotiate these contracts into your favor. I would tell any filmmaker, once they get to a certain level now, do not give your movie up without an MG. Now, if you can't get a proper distribution deal that's going to give you a minimum guarantee, then you shouldn't do any long contracts. You should go with an aggregator that you can trust.
Yeah.
That you're not in any long-term contract and that money's coming directly back to you. Thing is, we had a few nice size distributors that wanted Angie's Cure.
Yeah.
But we're not used to not getting MGs. We always get MGs, half made up. And we waited because the whole market started to shift and how they do business. But once we kind of just held out, we said we cannot afford to lock ourselves into a contract with a distributor where we're trying to get our money back and they're doing crazy creative bookkeeping, which they all do. So we had one particular company, I won't say their names, but what they did was they wanted to put us in an 11-year contract. That wasn't going to happen. And they didn't want to give us any money up front.
Yeah.
But they're going to do a limited theater. We're going to put it on this TVOD, this here, this there. We're going to do all this marketing. And I was like, and I thought about it and that talk. So what I did was I want to try something out. So I went back to them. I said, hey, we can cut the 11-year deal. We'll cut to 7 years. You're going to give me money up front? Fine. You're going to do these amount of windows? Fine. I'll cap the marketing costs.
And that's important too.
Cap the marketing costs.
Cap those marketing, because they'll just say they spent X amount of dollars on marketing. They never do.
They'll spend more than you spend on your movie. Yeah.
Any of your expenses have an audit clause in there that's solid. And I said, and I will give you every window. However, Tubi and AVOD, I'm going to keep that for myself. You have everything else.
That's where the big money is.
And you know what they said? No.
Yep.
You know why? Because all they're going to do is lock you into a long-term contract with all these different fees just to put it up on Tubi and sit back for the next 11 years
and
get all the money and hope that you can get money from them with all the stuff they're going to try to take out, creative bookkeeping gets back to you. When you can go directly to the platform through an aggregator and stuff and get all the money in. And when I tell you that the returns from Tubi, and Tubi's not exclusive, so you can be on multiple platforms at the same time, that is the wave right now. And you can generate a lot of money.
But it was really telling that they said, like, that was the whole test was.
Not our Tubi money.
Yeah, because what they sell you on is all these other platforms that are going to reach everybody. And quiet is kept with the film developing a fan base. Sometimes you can do that organically, or just even with your own aggregator that you have a relationship with, get it to these platforms. But the sell is, we're going to put it here and here and here. And then they minimize the AVOD platforms. Like, that'll just be after we've done all of these amazing things. And then we'll land it here so that you don't know no, there is a lot of money
I'll give you another
in this
example.
platform.
The money,
Yeah.
when we did Illicit, we had a nice deal with a nice studio company, and for broadcast and streaming.
Yeah.
Okay. We did licensing deals for 6 years. Okay. Those license deals came up to less than $1 million. But we did the movie for like, I don't know,
It was,
200. It was something.
Yeah.
Some good names. We did for less than 200. But anyway, we didn't realize that this particular big company had sent the movie over to Tubi during their contract term. Now, what we ended up finding out was that particular movie made like $11.7 million overall over those years from them having
How much?
11.7.
Wow.
What we didn't know is that what we should have had done, even though we were signing licensing deals, they can do whatever they want when you license it, they give you a certain amount of money. You could put a clause in there to audit them after the first year to see what they made. So when they come back to ask you to renew it, you have more of a
You're negotiating from a different,
negotiate to see what they're making. We didn't do that. Found out after the fact how much money it made. Now we have it back, and now it's up through Tubi through us. But if you look on Tubi now, there's a ton of big mainstream Hollywood movies that are moving it over to that
flooding the
platform.
platform
They're
now.
flooding the platform because that's where people are going for their AVOD and these different other platforms for AVOD. So there's a lot of money to be made. You just got to make sure you position yourself in so you can get to it directly without having some middleman putting you into some long-term contract that you're going to regret. And then once they milk every little drop out of that those 11 years, then here you go. And
Now, we were going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Hold nothing back on this show. Is this the point where you got a good accountant and you got in there and you discovered this?
Yes.
We have
There's some things to concern.
We can't go too much into details, but we had a good person. And when you have people that are the inside and they can look and see stuff, they'll tell you what's going on. And that's how we found
Kind of
out.
like a forensic account. They can get in there and see the real numbers.
They see, they don't want you to see it. They don't want you, nobody wants you to see what's going on.
The studios don't want to know that the cutting the checks don't really want, the little guys to find out what the real numbers are. But
And what's so funny, I was on a call the other day with some filmmakers and another aggregator, and we were talking, and one particular distributor that we know of, he basically said, and he's notorious, this company is, but he said, hey, most of these filmmakers are poor, they're not going to sue me.
That's what they think.
Those were real words.
They're not going to sue me, they're not going to get a account to do an audit, or they'll try to put something in the contract. You can't audit them. Most of them don't, because they don't think you're going to think that far, but they just think that you won't do anything, and they continue to take advantage of you. We've done some little deals just to test what a distributor would do. After we already had another window locked off, we were making money off a title. We tried to do a little something with a foreign right to one of our titles, because we were making money from foreign on a particular title. So let's try them out to see what they would do.
Yeah.
They didn't
and if they perform, maybe they can be trusted with something else.
They hit us with a $20,000 bill
for marketing and expenses and
marketing, hard costs, whatever. And I had to fight for them to send it. I just want to see what they were going to do. And I saw it. I said, that's all I needed to know.
It was perfect.
We don't care because they got a form right. They do whatever they do. And the deal was over in a year. They haven't done that in 6. But the fact that you're going to throw a $20,000 bill off me and you didn't give me any money up front, and I'm already in the hole with you.
But another thing you said to key in on is the windows, separating the windows when possible. And so in order to even kind of have that experience where you want to test out something without putting all your eggs in that basket, there are opportunities where you can say, you know what? I'll save off my foreign rights, and then let's see what you do foreign. Or if you can get your AVOD or rights separated, that way what you're doing as the filmmaker is you're giving yourself multiple opportunities to recoup on your investment, as opposed to, especially if it's a new relationship and you don't really know if you can trust the distributor saying, here's everything, here's all my rights, take it over, don't give me an MG. And then I'll be excited to get this, whatever split you negotiate. Of course, after all of the marketing things are recouped and this is recouped and this is, so what you're doing at that point is you're saying, all right, if one of you turns out to be unlike who you presented yourself to be, we are still okay. We've still recouped. And now we've learned something along the way. And so that's just the mentality that we've always kept, is making sure you got multiple exit strategies, making sure you can get your money back. And then that's the mentality we have. We treat other people's money like our money. So even when we worked one at the Twisted Date project, we did that for a studio, and we treated We call it we were babysitting their kid, but we're gonna treat this baby the way we would. We're not gonna add fluff in the budget. We're not gonna add line items that don't make any sense. We're gonna keep the same mentality, keep the money on the screen. And what that studio does with it at that point, I mean, it's made them a lot of money. We were #1 trending on a lot of platforms when the film came out, but we use the same model that we always use, when it's ours to own.
I just want to add one thing. And mind you, everything that we're saying, these are from movies that are, a mil, under a mil, around in there.
Mhm.
Now we have a couple that our next one is like 3.
Yeah.
Now, when you start getting into those ranges, now you're dealing with bigger studios direct.
Mhm.
I always say that when you're starting to generate those types of budgets, you're working there, you want to partner with a studio early.
Okay.
Unless you know you can get in Sundance and get a big bid and break out and just buy you out, you kind of want to get in early, because what they'll do is, a lot of times, distributors over the years, they'll do is, I love your concept, come back to us when it's done.
Yeah.
And you go out, you spend all this different money, and then guess what? You come back to them. Now you're on the hook for the money, and now they want to give you what they want to give you for it. You follow?
They don't want to take the risk.
They don't want to take
Right.
the risk. They want it all on you to come back to it. But sometimes you get the right names on it and the right budget, you catch them early and they get it. You have more favorable terms to negotiate a negative pickup before you actually shoot, and then they're in it with
They're
you
in with you.
skin.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother lesson that you probably have time for.
But like you said, it's levels. So,
Yeah,
but
it's
on
levels.
on the early level, out of film school level, as you're taking steps up, or even if you've done a couple films and you haven't broken over the $1 million threshold, it's just about protecting that investment, and then figuring out, while you're in that space, how to cultivate these relationships, directly, so that when you move to the next level, you're operating with confidence, and you've already, had all your bumps in the road when it wasn't going to be as much of an effect, on everything.
Well, like you said, every step of the way is a learning process. You're learning, you're getting better, you're getting wiser. So we went over a little time today, but tell us a little bit about Angie's Cure. Saw the trailer, it looks amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. So Angie's Cure, it's a movie that we were very, very excited and proud to shoot. It deals with sensitive topics. The quick synopsis is that 10 years after being raped at a party, a young woman seizes the opportunity to turn the tables on the attacker. So what ends up happening in Angie's Cure is we follow a coming of age story where young Angie, we're watching her innocence. She's about to be college bound. She goes to a party that she doesn't have business going to, and her life has changed forever. And then as we follow her journey 10 years later, and we see that she's developed a phobia of men. She works in a hair salon. She's isolated herself and insulated herself with women. So when an attacker breaks into that hair salon, something inside Angie snaps, and she faces a lot of the things that she's been repressing for the last 10 years. And so at that point, I won't give anything away, but it turns into a thrill ride, and we end up learning a lot more than we thought we were going to learn about the attacker, about Angie, and about the roller coaster that happens.
Yeah. So this movie won a bunch of film festivals. One of the biggest ones it won the grand jury prize at the Dances with Film Festivals.
That's right. Congrats on that. That's huge.
That was a big festival. A lot of great movies, great filmmakers. So we were very honored to win that particular festival. And the response has gone crazy for it that it's been released. So we're releasing it on Tubi, then we're going to Roku, then we're able to get an actual licensing deal with the MG from another streamer network, which is great. That'll start in January. So that goes back to what I'm saying about separating your rights and doing non-exclusive deals. And there's no long-term contracts. We have a 2-year licensing, but guess what? It's simultaneously non-exclusive.
Right.
So we keep it on Tubi and every place else along the platforms to generate the revenue. It's doing crazy numbers right now. And
awesome. Early in the release.
Yes.
Where's the best place people can go watch it? Or is there a preferred place?
The first one right now is currently Tubi.
Yes.
Right now. So go to Tubi and watch that. Check it out.
Yeah.
Hit us on the social media. Let us know what you think. But it's doing crazy. And mind you guys, Tubi is, most traditional, you release a movie, you do a big lead up, and then it's out and you let it go.
Yeah.
With Tubi, how they market, it's a long, steady process. The longer you're there, the more your revenue goes up with your advertisers or whatever, and you make money consistently over the year, and it just goes up. So it's not like you just traditionally go to theaters, do a big thing, and then just let it
Yeah.
go. It's
Yeah.
steady.
Yeah.
And so you have to keep the marketing going.
Well,
and keep
because it's
pushing.
such a rolling audience there. And so you're finding new people that are finding out about your movie. We're getting messages day in and day out about people that just saw it, yesterday or 2 days ago. And we beyond grateful. The messages that we cover in the movie, people come for one thing and then they leave with a whole conversation starter and then hit us up and tell us, this was my aunt or this was my daughter or I know this guy. And it's just been very rewarding for us. Both the artistry of it is so many incredible performances. The cast is amazing. But then what I'm really excited about is people, I think now people are catching on to AVOD, but people are going, wow, this is not a Tubi movie. And it's so funny to hear that because it's a movie that's on Tubi. And all that is
next to Batman,
next to all of these in
big-
the most popular.
and
So
there's 98 million subscribers on there. And
It's a lot of people.
Tubi's owned by Fox.
right. So it's
A lot of people.
once you understand the perception is you got the opportunity to draw in people that you might have never, gotten to the theater. Like now we have an even wider reach. So we would really appreciate, especially in this beginning time, to keep us on the top, to keep, the engagement up there and to help us reach out to more people. Check it out while it's on Tubi before it rolls out to other platforms.
Scott, one thing that this business changes every so many years.
Yeah.
We're in transition and you got to try to stay above it. We have been fortunate enough to be able to make a great living doing this, make a sort of, nice money and be able to continue to make our movies and dibble and dabble up in the studio parts of things and have that. So when now the doors are open, we have the prerogative if we want to step in certain doors or not based off what it is and what the business is. But if we can do what we've done with all these different movies over here, from outside the system, getting into it with no
Using the Pell Grant money to start.
Yeah, exactly. If we can do that, it's open for anybody as long as you are patient and persistent.
Yeah.
Patient.
Inspirational words from Corey, the writer, director, producer, and Lanett, writer, producer, and the star.
Yes.
Go see Angie's Cure. What a thrill to have you guys on the show. Thank you so much. And where's some good social media coordinates people can follow you?
Oh, great. Okay. So for Angie's Cure in particular, we have a website, angiescure.com. It'll have everything that you want to know about the movie. We even have a link that'll get you to Tubi to watch it right now. We also have our company website, newbreedentertainment.org. And you can find out all of the projects that we've done collectively as New Breed. And then on socials, funny you mention it, my social media got hacked right before our premiere. So that was fun. So I've just recently started a new page called Actress Lanett. I started that page this week on Instagram. So please follow me there.
Help her get her followers back. She lost all the followers.
You got one follower right here.
Thank you. I lost all my people, but it's okay. You know what? Everything will be restored and renewed, and I'm going to find more people and more friends and take them along the journey with me. So Actress Lanett, that's Lanett.
And
Awesome.
my Instagram is Corey, COREYGN2U.
The number.
Number 2U. Or just put Corey Grant. I should come up in there. You'll see me.
And we're all over Facebook, and Angie's Cure has a Facebook page as well.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Corey, Lanett, thank you so much. Go see Angie's Cure. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's time!
There's never been a better time to make your own film. And if you have a dream project you're excited about and 100% committed to getting it funded, go to financeyourmovie.com, click on the green telephone, you'll see our calendar and find an open spot. We'll do a one-on-one call, which will be the best hour you've ever spent getting clarity and strategy towards financing your movie.